President Biden appears to be desperate to retain his increasingly tenuous grip on the leader as the leader of his party. Reports indicate he plans to comply with the left's push to endorse sweeping changes to the U.S. Supreme Court. The proposed overhaul includes legislation to establish term limits for the justices, as well as enforceable an ethics code. Now, these plans come as the left continues its multi-year temper tantrum against the court following the overturn of Roe v. Wade. So how should conservatives respond to this threat to the court? Is it real? Could it happen? Joining me now to discuss this, Kelly Shackelford, President and CEO of First Liberty Institute. Kelly, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Good to be with you, Tony.
By the way, I had Congressman Pete Sessions on the Blitz earlier and he wanted me to tell you hello, another Texan.
I love to hear it.
All right, so tell our viewers and listeners what's going on. What is Joe Biden proposing?
This is very serious, and people need to pay attention. Obviously, he's desperate, but the danger, Tony, is that 130 different progressive groups have come together for this whole effort to remake the court. And they're trying a lot of different ways, but they're all incredibly dangerous. So let's take the original, which was the court pack. You know, they had a bill to add 4 justices, to add 200 lower court judges. And that might sound like it's a horrible political move, but it's worse than people understand, because every other country where they do this, your country's over the moment you do it the first time, because your court is now not a separate branch. The rule of law is gone. It's just a political body. And so whatever constitutional right you think you have, you don't, because you can just, if you're the person in power, you can just add however many justices you want to take away that right. And so there was a big fight over that. They tried to push that through. We and you and others spoke up and really educated people on the history of this. They even tried it in this country in 1936, 37, and we stopped it. And so what they've gone to is a new approach, which is equally radical and dangerous, and that is what you're hearing now. You might some people think, hey, yeah, term limits for justices, that might be a good idea. Well, that can be debated. The founders put it in there as life because they wanted there to be judicial independence. And in the polling we did just within the last year, over 90% of Americans said that they thought the independence of the judiciary was one of the most critical things about our country. So I don't think they want to start messing with that. Well, we can debate that. But what they're really doing, this is a sham, Tony. What they're doing is they're saying we want term limits, and we're going to start by getting rid of the oldest justices, the ones who have been on there the longest. So Clarence Thomas goes, Alito goes, Roberts goes. Interesting, isn't it, that only the more conservative justices go, none of the liberals. And then the ethics proposal is also really dangerous. It's unconstitutional first. Just like the court can't tell the Congress how to do their internal affairs, the Congress has no authority without a constitutional amendment telling Supreme Court justices how to do their job as justices. This is a massive attack on the separation of powers, the independence of the judiciary, and this is just about politicians that want to browbeat, attack, intimidate the justices. And so both of these are really just one group not liking the decisions they're getting in some of the cases. Most of the cases are unanimously decided this last term, more than that than anything else. But they don't like a few of them. And so in a partisan move, they're trying to politicize the court. And that's just incredibly dangerous. What we have here is so valuable that I think sometimes people don't realize if we lose it, we won't get it back, and that really our country will never be the same. That this is dangerous, even though it's radical, and we hope it'll be stopped. It's something everybody needs to be alerted to.
Kelly, isn't this, they dominated the court. They used the court to impose their policy ideas, which are unpopular with the American people. That's how the left has always used the court. They lost that when there was a move back in 2016, kind of a populist movement electing Donald Trump, who actually followed through on commitments to put constitutionalists onto the court. You were a part of vetting some of those. And that has kind of righted the balance of powers in our government. And so the left doesn't like that because they cannot force their will on the American people. So this is just another way at going at control for the court, right?
It is, and the thing is, it's so short-sighted. Look, I understand how extremists on the left, would say, "God, I don't like these decisions." And we even in the polling we did originally, the polling that we did on this was really serious, and the Democrats at first were ready to pack the court. But what happened is, when we started to educate them as what it meant, it went from 63% in favor to 41% in favor. Now, everybody else was against it, but the Democrats themselves, when they had all three, they had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, were pushing to do this. All we did is help them understand, look, it's not like you're going to add some justices and you're going to make the court a little more favorable to you. No, what happens, like in Venezuela and Argentina, you can go through lots of countries. When you do this once, your country's over, because the court is now politicized and it's owned by the legislative branch, and there is no independent judiciary. And so that's why anybody, conservative, liberal, should hate this idea if they care about any of their freedoms.
Right. Any tinkering with what the founders established, I mean, I think they were truly divinely inspired as they created it. And I think we have to be very, very careful when we start messing with it. And in fact, I don't have time to go into it, but the direct election of senators was one of the things that threw this whole thing off. We just need to be very careful about those changes. Kelly Shackelford, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony.